Single dad's incredible encounter with a beaten woman unveils a surprising, life-changing truth. The fading sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the streets in an amber glow. Mike had always believed that hard work could change lives, but as he locked up the garage after another exhausting day, he felt the weight of unrelenting uncertainties. His hands were grease-stained and calloused, evidence of the hours spent trying to make ends meet as a mechanic. But his heart bore the heavier imprint of his responsibilities as a single dad. 2 children relied on him, not just for their needs, but for their very sense of security. Yet each tick of the clock grew louder, as if time were taunting him, reminding him of his recent divorce and the judgments that lingered in the small town around him. As he stepped outside, that familiar feeling of despair stirred within him. Could he provide a better life for Olivia and Jake? As if life had a sick sense of humor, his mind wandered to their laughter, which echoed through their modest home whenever they believed he would be there forever. But was he really? The recognition of his loneliness battled against his resolve to give them a brighter future, leaving him breathless. And just then, on the cold sidewalk, he spotted her, a woman huddled, shivering, eyes downcast. "Are you okay? Can I help you?" he called out. His voice wavered with concern. At that moment, all his fears seemed to melt into the background. He was not merely a man burdened by his past. He was a father grounded in instinct. But each step toward her felt like stepping into quicksand of vulnerability. He instinctively knew this wasn't just an incident. This was an invitation to confront the unspoken injustices of the world. Her story spilled out, raw and painful. Sarah's life had been shattered by the brutality of an abusive partner, leaving scars etched deeper than any wound. They shared stories, finding common ground in each other's struggles, and as he listened, anger swelled inside of him, for her, for his kids, for the shackles of societal judgment. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. There it was, the first clash of moral dilemmas as he pondered whether he could shoulder both the weight of his children's needs and take on the responsibility of helping Sarah. Thoughts surged through him. What would happen if he offered more than just kindness? What if he dared to help her reclaim her life while battling the quiet, looming shadows of his own convictions? And then, in the grip of that moment, his phone buzzed. A stern voice from his daughter's school churned his stomach. Bullies targeting his children based on whispers regarding their family. Panic clawed at him, piercing through the burgeoning bond he felt for Sarah. Could he allow their struggles to intertwine, fighting for hope while the world grew crueler to his kids? The increasing weight on his chest mirrored the conflict within. His children, their innocence, shattered by community resentment. Rage burned alongside desperation as Mike looked to Sarah, who mirrored his turmoil. There was a path ahead, but unlike the grease-stained tools he wielded daily, the fight for their futures felt unfamiliar and hazardous. What if taking one step toward justice for Sarah cost him everything? His heart raced as he stood at the crossroads of despair and hope, fully realizing that the answer to their intertwined fates was uncertain, and that uncertainty threatened to tear them apart just as much as it drew them together. Mike's breath hung in the crisp evening air, a mix of determination and dread swirling within him. He wanted to extend a hand to Sarah, to become part of her healing journey, but the weight of his children's anguish loomed larger with every second. Was he strong enough to carry the burden of another suffering? The thought made his chest tighten. "Listen," Mike said, collecting his scattered thoughts. "I can help, if you want it." His voice trembled slightly with vulnerability, an unfamiliar sensation settling in. "Help? You barely even know me." Sarah's eyes flickered with skepticism, a spark of fear igniting in their depths. "I don't need to know everything. I know pain. I know how it feels to be alone when the world is against you. You deserve better than this." He gestured at the street, the setting sun casting shadows that seemed to mock their despair. Sarah hesitated, her expression caught between hope and the remnants of fear. "And what about your kids? What if helping me makes things worse for them?" That question struck him deeply, a wrenching reminder of the fragile balance he fought to maintain. But as the shadows deepened around them, so did his resolve. "I can't stand by and let anyone else suffer, not when I have the chance to change something. I need you to believe that." The air hung heavy with tension. Mike's heart raced as he pondered whether he was turning a corner in his life or barreling toward disaster. But what if helping Sarah ignited a fire within him? What if it expanded his capacity as a father, not only to Olivia and Jake, but to someone who needed him? "Okay," Sarah murmured, her voice small but resolute. "I'll trust you. For now." Relief surged through Mike, quickly countered by the chill of uncertainty. This partnership, even in its nascent stage, felt precarious. He cast a glance beyond their shared moment, back to thoughts of Olivia and Jake. Would he be able to shield them from the repercussions of his choices? The thought gnawed at him. The sun sank lower, spilling a blanket of darkness across their surroundings. "Let's figure this out." He drew in a breath, raising his chin. "I have a plan." But internal turmoil whispered that creating a plan was much easier than executing it. Over the following days, Mike introduced Sarah to the local resources available for victims of abuse. Together, they navigated a path marked with sorrow and resilience. With each session they attended, he learned more about trauma, what it meant to be a caretaker, a survivor, and someone who needed saving themselves. He discovered that speaking out against the injustices faced by others fueled a fire inside him that he hadn't even realized was there. But as Sarah began to find her footing, shadows returned to his doorstep in the form of bullying emails and taunts aimed at Olivia and Jake. They echoed in his mind, puncturing the fragile development he felt had begun to emerge around him. In protecting Sarah, had he unwittingly placed his children in the line of fire? Rage swelled again within him, yet he remained torn between the dual obligations that now dominated his life. "Dad, we don't want to go to school anymore," Jake murmured one evening, skin pallid and eyes low as they sat at the dinner table. Olivia glanced at her brother, her own shoulders slumped as she whispered, "They keep teasing us." That statement struck like a hammer against glass, shattering the fragile resolve he had carefully built with Sarah. His duty to protect his children felt overshadowed by the new commitment to an adult he hardly knew. The walls felt as though they were closing in. Mike slowly leaned back in his chair, considering the now dual battles before him, one in the unsympathetic world outside, and another against the haunting figures from Sarah's past. In that moment, Mike realized he stood on the precipice of a critical decision. Would he confront those who sought to harm his children, risking everything? Or would he withdraw into the safety of silence, allowing fear to dictate the boundaries of his new life? Time felt as though it held its breath. The moment of action approached, and Mike knew that whatever decision he made next would echo long beyond this dinner table, and into the hearts of every person entangled in the web of pain and hope he was now part of. As the weight of the choice sank in, a voice within whispered that he could no longer hide away from the fight ahead. The real question gnawed at him, sharp and insistent. When would he finally confront not just the external threats, but also the demons hidden deep within himself? The following day dawned gray, a fitting reflection of Mike's tumultuous mind. As he watched Olivia and Jake prepare for school, a suffocating sense of dread coiled in his gut. They looked weary, their spirits dulled by relentless ridicule. Mike observed every little detail, their reluctant movements, the way they avoided each other's gaze, and the hope fading within their once vibrant eyes. The burden felt almost unbearable. At breakfast, silence reigned. The clatter of silverware against plates felt jarring in the heaviness of the air. Mike cleared his throat, searching for the right words to break the tension. "Things at school can be tough," he began, his voice heavy with unshed emotion. "But I want you to know that I'm here. Whatever happens, we're a team." Jake bit his lip, the tremor evident in his jaw. "A team? How can we be a team when they're saying things we don't even know how to deal with?" An arresting silence filled the space between them. Mike could feel the pulse of their fear, unmistakable and raw. Could he bear to show them his own uncertainties, his own failures as a protector? It felt a betrayal to admit that he was still grappling with his role as a father, even as he sought to help others like Sarah. "Maybe I can help," he offered, but the certainty in his voice wavered. "We can figure something out together, stand up for each other." Olivia glanced up, her brows furrowed as she searched his eyes. "But Dad, you're trying to help Sarah. What if the bullies find out? What if they hurt us more?" There it was, the fear Mike had been trying to shield them from. It wasn't just about confronting the bullies. It was about the overwhelming dread that accompanied every confrontation. But the truth was, the risk of inaction loomed larger than the risk of action. For Sarah's sake, for Olivia and Jake's, he realized he had to face this. "I don't know everything, but I know one thing," Mike said, leaning closer to them, his voice steadying. "We have to stand up for ourselves, together. I won't let anyone disrespect our family. Together, we can show them that they can't break us." As he spoke, the fire he'd uncovered while helping Sarah ignited once more. It wasn't just about aiding others. It was about understanding the power that came from vulnerability, from facing pain head-on. "I can talk to your teachers, maybe even the principal," he continued, conscious of the weight of his words. "We can set up a meeting and address everything. We'll make sure that you feel safe and supported at school." Jake looked skeptical, but there was a flicker of hope in Olivia's eyes. "You really think that would work?" Mike held their gaze, the conviction rising within him. "I do. We need to fight against this together. I can't promise it will be easy, but I promise you this, we won't be alone. Look at what we've already accomplished with Sarah. We can channel that strength." In that moment, as they exchanged hesitant smiles, Mike felt a shift within him, a burgeoning recognition of his influence. As a father, the day unfolded, but instead of dread, a tentative determination replaced despair. Mike maneuvered through the familiar routes, his mind buzzing with strategies and possibilities. He crafted a plan to address the bullying while ensuring he remained committed to Sarah's needs. Balance would be key, he thought, as he felt the tensions start to dissipate. Later in the afternoon, the clamor of children filled the school courtyard as parents mingled in the background. Mike felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. Today, there would be action. He squared his shoulders, mentally preparing to confront not just the external adversaries, but also the fears lurking in his heart. As he stepped into the school's hallway, he caught Sarah's reflection in the glass door. She looked stronger than before. It was a reminder of his own journey, the weaving of their paths. With every step toward the principal's office, Mike felt a deeper clarity. This wasn't merely about helping Sarah anymore. It was about redefining what it meant to be a protector while embracing his own vulnerabilities. Would he ultimately succeed in holding this precarious balance? Was he truly prepared to confront the storm he had set in motion? The answers loomed ahead, shrouded in uncertainty. But the one thing Mike knew for sure was that he was ready to fight, not just for his children, and not just for Sarah, but for himself as well. As their meeting approached, Mike felt a surge of resolve. What other layers of strength would he uncover in the face of adversity? And at what cost? Mike's heart raced as he settled into the stark wooden chair in the principal's office, the air thick with unspoken tensions. Across the desk, Principal Carter sat poised, her expression a mix of concern and authority. It was a small space filled with certificates of achievement, testament to a focus on academic excellence. Yet the walls felt like a cage, trapping his restless thoughts. "I appreciate you coming in, Mr. Larkin," she began, her voice measured. "Your feedback about bullying is vital, and I'd like to hear what you've observed." As he spoke, articulating the pain he'd seen within Olivia and Jake, Mike felt a shift inside him. No longer was he solely a worried father, he was a voice advocating for change. He had learned from Sarah's struggles, and now he synthesized her lessons into his narrative, recounting how fear had silenced his children and how it could not be permitted to continue. Bullying isn't just a school issue. It affects their self-esteem, their ability to learn, he asserted, feeling the weight of his words. If we don't appreciate this, we're failing them. Principal Carter nodded, glancing at the notes she had taken. "You're right, Mr. Larkin. We need to create a safe environment. But addressing situations with bullies is delicate. We must act carefully to avoid escalation." Mike's determination surged. What if we bring in a support group? Provide weekly sessions where students can express their issues? Empower them to speak out? The principal raised an eyebrow, intrigued yet skeptical. "That's ambitious. These programs often take time to develop and come with their own challenges." "Sometimes you don't have luxury of time," Mike replied, his voice firm but calm. "Every day the kids face harassment is another day their confidence erodes." He remembered Olivia's help when crafting posters for Sarah and how even simple actions brought solace. It was time to amplify that initiative. As they strategized, Mike felt something enormous brewing in him. Not just the hope of change for his kids, but a deep recognition of his capability to influence their environment. He realized that every word he spoke was shaping his story, one where he wasn't just a bystander, but an active participant crafting a legacy of resilience. Once the meeting concluded, certainty coursed through him. Mike stepped out of the office into the bustling hallway, a stark contrast to the quiet weight of the principal's chamber. He took a deep breath, surveying the students, each lost in their own challenges. "No more fear," he whispered, steeling himself for what was to come. He needed to confront the darkness plaguing their school, but there remained an internal hesitation. Did he have what it took to lead this initiative? Would he be able to hold together his family and be the father they needed, despite the looming storm of unresolved bullying? Back at home, their dinner table felt different. The tension was lighter, but only just. After sharing about the meeting, Mike hoped to inspire Olivia and Jake, but he could sense apprehension etched on their faces. "Dad, what if it doesn't work?" Olivia asked, worry tracing her voice. "It has to work, but even if it doesn't happen overnight, we're taking a stand. Together. This is our fight now," he replied, leaning forward, trying to infuse confidence into his words. Yet, deep down, doubt simmered. What if all these efforts fell flat? As he watched the uncertain glimmer in his children's eyes, the reality hit him. Sometimes, progress comes at the cost of discomfort, not just for himself, but for Jake and Olivia too. Navigating his responsibilities felt like walking a tightrope, a struggle of balancing action with the emotional fallout. As they cleared the table together, Mike realized he was teetering on the edge of transformation, feeling the weight of potential failure, but also the stirrings of hope intermingled with his fears. Tomorrow's confrontation with the school's bully might reveal new depths to his character, or expose his weaknesses in a troubling light. Would he emerge victorious as a beacon of bravery for his family, or would he crumble under the pressure? The night settled in, darkness veiling uncertainties yet to come. Mike lay awake, questioning everything. What revelations awaited him in his quest for change, and how would this battle define the family's future? As the first light of dawn pierced through the curtains, Mike sat at his kitchen table, a cup of coffee cooling in front of him, untouched. He turned the events of the previous day over in his mind like a complex riddle. His proposal for a support group had ignited a flicker of hope, yet layers of apprehension wrapped tightly around that brightness. The time for action was approaching, but with each tick of the clock, the gravity of his responsibility weighed heavier on his shoulders. He had never been the sort to confront conflict head-on. Instead, he typically chose avoidance or negotiation. This initiative demanded more. It required confrontation and resolution, traits he feared might be buried deep beneath his desire to keep the peace. As he prepared for the day, he couldn't shake the image of Olivia and Jake, their faces a study of confusion and fear. They needed a father who could lead them through this storm, not a hesitant figure looking for an escape route. Their future, and the culture of the school, felt tangled in the fibers of his leadership potential, pulling tighter as the minutes passed. Once at the school, Mike's resolve gained a veneer of confidence. After all, he wasn't there solely to confront the bully. He was there for every parent, every child who felt muted by fear. Upon entering the crowded halls, the noise of chatter seemed to recede into a distant echo as he scanned the faces of students, trying to identify those who might be suffering in silence. In his office meeting with Principal Carter, he had painted a picture of camaraderie and strength, but now, standing amid the throng of students, it all felt fragile. Mike closed his eyes for a brief moment, envisioning the conversation with the bully. A halo of courage began to form around him, charged by thoughts of his children and the countless others trapped in similar scenarios. Yet, anxiety tugged at the edges of his resolve. What if the bully retaliated? What if other parents failed to support him? The pending confrontation could spiral into chaos, not only for him, but for the other children. As he walked toward the principal's office, Mike's breath quickened. This was not merely about him anymore. It was about the trust his children had placed in his capabilities. A realization struck hard, cutting through the trepidation. Failure was not just possible, it was a viable outcome. He would face it head-on rather than shrink into the shadows of uncertainty. Inside her office, Principal Carter looked up as he hesitated in the doorway, her expression serious yet encouraging. "Ready?" she asked, as though sensing the internal battle waging within him. Mike nodded, although he had to swallow hard against the nerves threatening to choke him. "I believe in this," he said, quietly but firmly. As they stepped out into the hallway, he and the principal formed a united front. The air crackled with potential confrontation, electric and raw. With each step toward the schoolyard, Mike's resolve solidified. He would not falter. Mike's gaze fell upon a girl sitting alone on the edge of the playground. Tears streaked her face, her posture a portrait of defeat. It was striking how the moment turned perception on its head. While he had prepared for a fight, it was this girl's pain that engaged his empathy, shifting his priorities. "What's wrong?" Mike found himself asking her instinctively, halting in his tracks. Her wide eyes flickered with surprise, and as she started to share her story, a jarring reality hit him. The fight he sought to engage in was merely the surface of a deeper sea, one filled with currents of fear and pain far beyond his immediate considerations. As the girl recounted her experiences with bullying, each word echoed within him, illuminating a new path of urgency. He realized the stakes of his mission had just magnified tenfold. Would he continue his original intentions, or would he pivot, delving deeper into the emotional turmoil that surrounded his children? In that moment, he understood that the battle was more than just confronting a bully. It was about becoming an advocate for every wounded soul who felt voiceless and trapped. A decision weighed heavy on his heart. Would he rise to this unexpected challenge and broaden his mission, or retreat to the comfortable plan he initially crafted? With the girl's hopeful gaze compelling him forward, Mike stood at a crossroads. One path offering familiarity, the other, the unknown, richly demanding but full of purpose. It was time to embrace a life-altering revelation. Mike's heart raced as he crouched next to the girl, his mind racing with the implications of her story. She spoke of isolation, whispers that curled around her like chains, holding her down.
Each word deepened his understanding of the emotional landscape littered with pain. Voices of doubt slowed the tempo of his thoughts. Could he really challenge the bully while uplifting those like her? It felt daunting, yet amidst the apprehension, a spark of determination ignited. He offered her a reassuring smile. "You're brave for sharing this," he said softly, trying to convey genuine empathy. She blinked back tears, the weight of her vulnerability mingling with a burgeoning sense of hope. But Mike suddenly felt the weight of her pain merge with his own unresolved fears. His role was not just to confront, it was to empower. Responsibility surged through him like an electric current, igniting old memories of his own childhood, moments when he had felt equally powerless. In that instance, he realized what was needed to truly make a difference. "Can you tell me more about what happens during recess?" he encouraged, drawing her out. Her story unfolded further, revealing a tapestry of whispered taunts and treacherous social dynamics that echoed Mike's own adolescent experiences. With each shared experience, he began seeing flashes of his children's eyes reflected in hers. Clarity cut through the fog of uncertainty. If he cared for his kids' well-being, he had to champion for every child who felt invisible, especially
in times of need. This wasn't merely an issue of right and wrong, it was a fight for futures. Yet, as he absorbed her words, a new realization settled uncomfortably in his gut. This wasn't a simple act of heroism where a single confrontation would divert the tide. It required an intricate approach, his fears intertwined with renewed purpose, demanding that he step outside of his comfort zone. "I need to talk to Principal Carter," he murmured, suddenly energized. "There are things we have to do." He straightened, determination weaving into his features as he guided the girl to her feet. "And you're not alone in this anymore." In the principal's office, the suffocating weight of previous apprehensions began to evaporate as Mike shared the girl's story. Principal Carter's eyes widened, signaling her recognition of the deeper issues at play. "We can start with initiatives that connect kids, build programs for mentorship. We'll need allies." She nodded in agreement, a flicker of excitement lighting her gaze as she considered the possibilities. "We'll have to approach parents too, those willing to listen," Mike asserted, his voice gaining strength. He felt the latent leader within him begin to awaken fully, shaking off years of hesitation. Building a safety net isn't just about addressing bullying, it's about cultivating a community where every child can express themselves freely. As plans began to form, so did the idea of a collaborative effort, inviting parents to share their experiences, fostering understanding to bridge generational gaps. The graph of his hesitance steadily declined as he envisioned a network spreading beyond the school's walls, driving action that aligned with his newfound resolve. Yet even as he championed this cause, the gnawing fear remained. What if he stumbled? What if their efforts fell apart? Mike would have to confront that splintering worry head-on, trusting in his own growth as both a father and an advocate. The next step loomed ahead, a decision that would test every belief he held about leadership and community engagement. There was no turning back now. The stakes were too high. His children, the vulnerable kids he met, all depended on him. He paused for a moment in the principal's office, contemplating everything that was about to unfold. This was his threshold. Would he be able to unite a fractured community and foster real change, or would he crash under the weight of expectations? With that thought spiraling in his mind, Mike took a breath and steeled himself, knowing the journey to transformation was just beginning. The time had come to face the reality of his influence, to navigate the complexity of human pain and resilience. But one more pressing question lingered. Who would stand alongside him as they charged toward the uncharted territories of healing? Mike stepped out of Principal Carter's office, a mix of exhilaration and trepidation coursing through him. The hallways felt even more alive now, as if the walls themselves were echoing the potential for change. Each step resonated with the notion that today could mark
the beginning of something monumental, not just for the students, but for him as well. He had a purpose now, a mission that transcended his own fears. He glanced at the clock on the wall and realized he had just a few hours before the end of the school day. It struck him that the afternoon could either solidify the momentum he felt or unravel it entirely if not approached with enough clarity and intention. The thought struck him hard. Paralysis from hesitation could easily overshadow the spark he felt only moments ago. He needed a plan. In the cafeteria, the chaotic blend of laughter and shouts washed over him. Children lost in their worlds, oblivious to the turmoil felt by some of their peers. Mike scanned the sea of faces, wondering which ones carried shadows of isolation like the girl he had just spoken with. They all looked like someone worth fighting for. Suddenly, the idea struck him. Why not create a space for conversation? It didn't need to be formal, but rather a way for the kids to connect, share anecdotes, and express their challenges without fear of judgment. He imagined small peer-led discussion groups, casual meets where stories could be shared freely. It would be a start. As he brainstormed possibilities, he recalled parents from the school's community who had expressed interest in involvement during weekend events. Perhaps he could tap into that network, reach out to engage those willing to listen and validate their children's feelings. If he could foster communication among families, not only would the students feel supported, but the parents might begin to bridge gaps of understanding that had long existed. Yeah, that could work, he muttered to himself, almost surprised by the clarity of the idea which blossomed from his reflections. But as soon as the plan began to take shape, the anxiety resurfaced. Would parents truly be open? Would they understand the gravity of the situation or dismiss it as a passing phase of childhood? Challenging those unspoken doubts too often frozen him in the past, so how could he take this forward? Perhaps he might begin discussions through an informal email, sharing insights from this morning's encounter. But pushing forward meant confronting his own fears of inadequacy, of experiencing the disappointing rejection from those wanting to maintain the status quo. Yet the thought of the girl's teary eyes, the bravery in her voice, pushed him to forge ahead. On the way to his car, Mike's mind swirled with possible messages, rephrasing them in ways that felt authentic but still impactful. He could outline the necessity for parental involvement, highlight the very real impact of bullying, while offering a framework for engagement that felt accessible. As he sank into the driver's seat, a pivotal question loomed. What if his outreach fell flat, or worse yet, made parents defensive? The stakes were mounting, the implications too significant to ignore. Would sharing his own story resonate, or would it alienate them further? Frustration bubbled within him as he considered potential failures against the hope he was building, creating an internal conflict that sparked a greater urgency. He needed to anchor himself, to lean into this initiative despite the risks. Mike closed his eyes for a brief moment and drew in a deep breath, anchoring himself in the present. He refused to allow doubt to take the helm any longer. He had felt powerless before. Today, he wouldn't sit idly by. In this transformative moment, with pen poised over paper, he realized he was no longer just a father reacting to challenges. He was a catalyst for change in his children's lives and those around him. And perhaps, just perhaps, once he started reaching out, he might uncover unlikely alliances in the most unexpected places. But just as determination surged within him, a troubling thought interrupted. What if he lacked the charisma to spark change in others? He had taken on the weight of a community on his shoulders, and now the challenge of self-doubt he could no longer stave off loomed large. Would he summon the courage to connect with those parents, or would this chance to rally for something greater slip through his fingers? With that unresolved tension pulling at him, Mike realized he was standing at yet another threshold. Only this time, the challenge wasn't just about leading. It was about becoming the kind of person others would want to follow. As Mike sat in his car, the cool metal of the steering wheel grounding him, thoughts churned like a storm. The outline for his email formed in his mind, yet the doubt gnawed persistently. Could he convey the urgency of the issue without overwhelming those he hoped to engage? He tapped his fingers against the leather seat.
each beat mirroring the heartbeat of his rising anxiety. With a determined exhale, he pulled out his phone and opened a new message draft. The blinking cursor felt like a taunt, daring him to put his thoughts into words. He envisioned the parents, familiar faces from school events. Instead of being allies, some could easily misinterpret his intentions. Would they hear his message loud and clear, or would they shield their children's struggles behind the walls of their own biases and fears? He took a moment to evaluate the weight of his words. Mike began typing cautiously. As a father, His finger hovered over the screen. Was he ready to open up about his own experiences of feeling powerless? As soon as the thought crossed his mind, an internal battle erupted. The desire for connection clashed with the fear of vulnerability. What if sharing his personal struggles made him appear weak rather than relatable? Casting a glance at his own reflection in the rearview mirror, he saw a man torn between two worlds, the protective father and the man yearning for change. He had become a figure of strength for his children, but the pressure of stepping into a broader role weighed heavy on him. He decided that authenticity
might be the bridge he needed to connect with the parents. In an impulse fueled by an unshakable belief in the mission he had embraced, he wrote, "I understand firsthand how difficult it is to navigate the fears and challenges that come with parenting in today's world." It felt liberating to embrace the truth of his experience, but a wave of nerve followed. He paused, breathing deeply. Was it enough? He needed this to stir a sense of urgency among them, something that connected directly to their children's lives. His fingers continued to dance over the screen. Our children are facing pressures we may not fully understand. I believe we can't afford to stand by any longer, hoping someone else will address these issues. The words flowed out of him now, obfuscating his earlier paralysis. He recalled the girl's face, the pain mixed with bravery. That memory rekindled something potent, igniting a fierce desire within him to advocate not only for her, but for all those kids who suffered in silence. Once he hit send, there would be no turning back. There, in the pit of his stomach, a cocktail of exhilaration and trepidation brewed. His thumb hovered over the send button, hesitation creeping back. What if the parents dismissed him or criticized his worries? Each thought carried the weight of their expectations, both for himself and the collective he sought to influence. He hesitated, pondering the ramifications of his decision. Wouldn't a stronger man face this challenge head-on? Wouldn't he encourage others to transform doubt into action? He pressed send. Immediately, relief washed over him, but it was quickly replaced by the recognition that the true challenge lay ahead. Mike realized he had taken a crucial step, but now had to prepare for the inevitable responses, both good and bad. Rebuttals, defensiveness, connections, support. He couldn't predict how his outreach might lead to outcomes far beyond his intention. Yet an exhilarating sense of purpose lingered. The momentum had shifted. It was time to confront not only the obstacles before him, but also the self-doubt that had paralyzed him for far too long. As he left the parking lot, the pressure of uncertainty still loomed. What if the parents united against him instead of for their children? He felt as if he were standing on the brink of an impending tide, teetering between accomplishment and ruin. A realization began brewing. He needed more than just an idea to introduce change. He needed courage, advocacy, and perhaps an ally willing to share this burden. Who else in this community shared his passion for elevating their children's experiences? Mike's heart raced with unresolved tension as he pulled into traffic. The beginning of something meaningful waited just out of reach, and he felt the challenge closing in. Whispers of possibility and fear intertwined. Would he find that ally, or would his initiative wither beneath external scrutiny? The road ahead was both thrilling and daunting, and he could almost hear the echoes of his own doubts swarming around him. Then, as if fate answered, a name drifted into his mind. The local parent-teacher organization's president, a woman known for her fierce advocacy and unwavering commitment. Maybe, just maybe, she could be the ally he desperately needed. With a newfound determination, Mike made a mental note to reach out to her. After all, people like her could be the key to turning the tides in favor of the children. As he arrived home, he glanced once more at the blinking cursor of his email. The next phase awaited him. He would need to muster all his bravery to move forward and gather the support not just of parents, but of the community as a whole. But what if reaching out to her pulled him into an unexpected confrontation that could shake everything he'd built so far? The moment of truth was quickly approaching, and Mike couldn't shake the feeling that this journey had only just begun. As Mike stepped into his home, the soft thud of the door closing behind him felt oddly like a finality, an end to his previous self and the uncertain start of something new. He couldn't shake the cocktail of anxiety and excitement boiling in his chest. He placed his phone on the kitchen counter, forgiving its light that seemed to pulse with potential like a heartbeat synced to his own. The living room was dimly lit, a stark contrast to the fiery thoughts swirling in his mind. He caught sight of his children sprawled on the floor, surrounded by arts and crafts materials. They created, free from the burdens that chased him. How he envied their carefree spirit. Yet their laughter brought him back to his purpose, igniting his resolve. He was fighting for them, for every child who wrestled with unseen battles, and that was no small task. His thoughts shifted to the president of the parent-teacher organization, Jessica. Could she provide the credibility and support he craved? What if she too questioned his intentions? The hours turned into a mental montage as he replayed their last interaction. She was a fierce advocate, yes, but also guarded and quick to dissect anyone who had aspirations of reforming the status quo. The idea of meeting with her felt akin to stepping onto a battlefield. Drawing a deep breath, Mike resolved to make that call. But first, he would transform his scattered ideas into something concrete. He settled down at the kitchen table, pulling out a notepad and a pen. As he scribbled down his vision for change, the urgency of each word drove him onward. He needed to be precise, inviting rather than invasive, and connect his fears as a parent with shared experiences of others. With purpose illuminating his thoughts, he began forming an outline. He envisioned an open forum, an event where parents could gather to discuss their children's struggles in an unguarded atmosphere. This structure would allow for dialogue instead of confrontation, an avenue for sharing vulnerable experiences and truths rather than opposing views. The key would be recognizing their commonality, not their differences. As the pen moved quickly across the page, Mike felt something shift within. Each stroke solidified his conviction, illuminating more than just words on paper. He discovered a talent for distilling complex feelings into digestible messages. A flicker of self-awareness sparked. He had always been good at facilitating conversations. Perhaps he could channel that skill into this gathering, transforming his initial fears into a powerful tool for connection. With the outline complete, he glanced at the clock. The children would soon need dinner, and the evening would quickly close in around him. He felt a bittersweet pang, reluctantly pulling himself back from the momentum he'd created. But as he washed the dishes, he couldn't shake thoughts of Jessica. Would she be receptive to his ideas? The telephone call loomed over him, each moment passing with a mix of dread and determination. What if she scoffed at his desire for change? He remembered her piercing gaze, the way she scrutinized the motivations of others. Torn between fear and ambition, Mike prepared himself mentally for the confrontation that awaited him. As he finished cleaning, the kitchen remained silent, holding its breath as he flipped through potential script ideas for his pitch to Jessica. He persisted in the storytelling he envisioned. Vulnerability married with assertiveness was the combination he'd need. With his thoughts tangled between hope and trepidation, he took a deep breath and reached for his phone, hesitant yet resolved. The time had come to face the possibility of rejection, to harness the self-assurance he had unearthed within himself. He dialed her number, heart pounding mercilessly in his chest. The phone rang. Uncertainty wrapped around him like a heavy cloak, but there was little turning back now. What would she say? Would she be the ally he craved, or another stumbling block? The moment stretched, and Mike could feel the looming confrontation. And then, the voice on the other end sent a shiver down his spine. "Hello, this is Jessica," came her cool, measured tone. He hesitated. Would he be able to navigate this conversation without drowning in his own insecurity? Would this encounter evolve into a surprising alliance, or unravel into unexpected turmoil? The answer lay in the words he would choose next. "Hi, Jessica, it's Mike Larkin," he began, his voice steadying as he spoke her name. "I hope you're doing well." "Hi, Mike, what can I do for you?" She was all business, but he sensed a hint of curiosity. Taking a breath, he leaned into the vulnerability he had begun to embrace. "I wanted to discuss the issue of bullying at school. I've noticed it's affecting the kids, my children especially, and I think we might have an opportunity to create some change together." He could feel a momentary silence on the other end, the weight of his words suspending the air between them. "Really, that's a significant concern," Jessica replied, her tone shifting to,
"Yeah, I've seen how it impacts not only their self-esteem, but also their willingness to engage in school. I've spoken to some kids, and it's heartbreaking. I believe we need to facilitate conversations not only amongst the kids, but also the parents in our community." Mike pressed on, realizing that he was gaining momentum. "I've heard some parents talking about this too, but what exactly do you have in mind?" Her voice encouraged him to paint the picture. "An informal open forum where parents and children can talk, share their experiences, and network for support, but in a constructive way. I think this could foster understanding within the community and help address the issues of bullying proactively." His words spilled out, becoming a tapestry of purpose woven from joint concern. "Interesting," she mused. "How do you see this working in practice? You know this kind of initiative requires buy-in." "Yes, exactly. I've thought of that as well. We'd want to foster openness among the parents to share their experiences so we can build trust before the event even starts. Start with our own stories of what we've faced as parents and as kids. It's about forming a united front." Jessica paused, and Mike could almost hear the wheels turning in her mind. "I see potential in this idea, but there will be resistance. Some may prefer to distance themselves from the issue." "Absolutely, but every child matters," Mike said firmly. "If we can empower even a handful of families to engage, it could lead to a shift in culture. Children will feel supported, and maybe the cycle of bullying can get broken from the heart of the problem: fear and isolation." He sensed her intrigue deepen, exemplified by the way she processed his words. "Okay, I'm on board with helping to set this up, Mike. If you handle the details of assembling the agenda, I can rally support from other parents through the network. It's going to take us working together." A rush of exhilaration coursed through Mike. "Thank you, Jessica. This truly means a lot to me. I think we can create something meaningful that will resonate." After discussing the next steps and deciding on a meeting date, Mike hung up, his heart racing with a mix of relief and excitement. He had just sparked a partnership that could revolutionize their school's approach to bullying. This was a significant leap in his journey, not just towards supporting his children, but also to building a bridge for others who might feel isolated. As he walked back to the living room, he noticed Olivia and Jake giggling, their creative spirits behind scattered art supplies. For the first time in a long while, he felt the weight of worry lift slightly. He was not merely existing in the whirlwind of his circumstances, he was actively forging a path for change. He sat down beside them, beaming. "What are you two working on?" "We're creating a superhero family," Jake exclaimed proudly.
"They're drawings." A smile blossomed on Mike's face. "I love it! Superheroes are all about protecting and helping others, aren't they?" Jake nodded vigorously. "Yeah, they stand up for people." "And that's exactly what we're going to do, as a family," Mike replied, his voice vibrant with newfound energy. "We're going to make a difference, even at school." At that moment, Mike recognized his transformation.
a complete shift from a man overwhelmed by his own fears to a father ready to lead. He had stepped into his power, embracing vulnerability while becoming a pivotal voice for change. The children's laughter brightened the atmosphere around him, reflecting the hope built within strong relationships that flourished in vulnerability. Together, they would be the heroes in their own narratives, rising against adversity as a united family. This assurance awakened a property of confidence within Mike, a sense of achievement that came from aligning his purpose with his values. He embraced this momentous journey, fully aware that each step not only strengthened his family, but rippled through the lives of others. As he joined Olivia and Jake in their creative endeavor, Mike affirmed his commitment to being not just the protector of his children, but an advocate for all. The road ahead would undoubtedly have its challenges, but he was equipped with resilience, newfound alliances, and an unwavering sense of purpose. And he was ready. Now it is your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these empowering narratives reach those who need it. Comment your reactions and theories about Mike's journey and what you think might happen next. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to be part of this incredible community.